Welcome, everyone. I'm Zulma Arias, Executive Director at People's Action, a national network of grassroots groups with more than 1 million members in 38 states. And this is the People's House Party, a special event about how we, everyday people in communities across the country, can build a bigger we and the collective power to win in 2022 and beyond. Thank you for joining us. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos en esta noche. If you want to follow us in Spanish, use the link on your screen, Somos Más. Si prefiere escucharnos y seguirnos en español, por favor, siga el enlace que dice Somos Más en su pantalla. I am joining you tonight from Wichita, Kansas. This is the traditional land of the Osage, the Wichita, and the Sioux people. Please take a moment wherever you are to honor the land and all of our elders and ancestors. Let's take a moment. Thank you for doing that. Now tell me where you are. Please tell us in the chat. Engage. I want to see that chat going. Tell us where you are. And if you're watching us on Facebook or on Twitter, it's not too late to join the conversation. Follow the House Party link on your screen. We've got an exciting program for you tonight with lots and lots of special guests. But first, let me welcome my co-host, Carrie Santoro from Pennsylvania SenSap, a People's Action member group. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you, Zulma. I'm so excited to be with you to talk about what everyone can do to build a bigger we and some really exciting things that are happening in Pennsylvania. But first, let's welcome our special musical guest, Reginald Chapman. Take it away, Reginald.
Hey everyone, thanks to People's Action for hosting this event. Let's build a bigger we.
Thank you, Reginald. Artists and art help us to see and hear what is possible, and a better world is possible. We can create a world where there's room and opportunities for everyone. And that is what we're here to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about how we can build a bigger we.
Yeah, Sulma, a better world really is possible, but it's going to take all of us from every walk of life in every corner of the country. And that's something we've definitely learned in Pennsylvania.
Tell me more, Carrie. Pennsylvania is a big state with rural, urban, or city. What are the challenges you face?
Yeah, Pennsylvania, we're home to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, as well as more than 7 million acres of farmland in places like Lancaster County and Berks County. But all across the state, communities want change. And that's how our organization, Pennsylvania Stands Up, was born.
Wow, that sounds amazing. How did that happen?
So back in 2016, more and more of us saw the system was broken, and it was really up to us to fix it. Groups formed in Lancaster, in Reading, and in Harrisburg to stand firm against leaders who tried to divide us by the color of our skin, our immigration status, the way we worship. Philadelphia, Scranton, and the Lehigh Valley also launched efforts to take on the billionaire class and root out the greed that really starves our communities of the resources we deserve. Because everyone needs a good paying job, a safe place to call home, and good public schools where we all live.
Carrie, that sounds powerful, but it also sounds very challenging. I bet it wasn't easy.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't been easy. We've certainly seen a rise in white nationalism. We saw a mass shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh in 2018. And politicians who openly espouse white nationalist ideas to move their own agenda. And it's no secret that Pennsylvania helped Donald Trump win the White House in 2016, even if only by a handful of votes.
Carrie, how can we fight back against what sometimes feels like a rising tide of hate and division?
In Pennsylvania, we know that we need to do what we do best, and that's organize. 3 years ago, these local groups that I mentioned, strong, unified voice for change, and that's Pennsylvania Stands Up. We've had thousands of deep and meaningful conversations through a Deep Canvas program, both in person and by phone, to really change hearts, minds, and votes.
Carrie, Deep Canvas is our special sauce or methodology. Tell us what Deep Canvas is and how it works.
Yeah, I would actually love to share something that just happened to me recently. A few weeks ago, I spoke with someone who was really frustrated with what he was seeing in Washington and Harrisburg, what he sees as a disconnect between politicians' priorities and the needs of our communities. I definitely empathized with him, and I agreed about that disconnect. I asked out of curiosity if he was planning to vote. He said absolutely not, because what's the point? I really understood where he was coming from, and I decided to be vulnerable and share why it's so important for me to vote this year. I shared with him that my son is transgender, and I fear for his future and his safety if people with our values don't come out to vote. He really heard me, and after we spoke for a bit, he said, all right, can you help me figure out how to register to vote? And that's one way that we're building a bigger we, through compassionate curiosity, vulnerability, and without judgment for each other. We also support local leaders who want to take action with us and even run for office, like Nikhil Sawal. Nikhil is one of the founding members of Reclaim Philadelphia, which joined Pennsylvania Stands Up in 2020. And Nikhil is now a Pennsylvania state senator.
Wow. Tell me more about Nikhil and your relationship with him.
Yeah, so Senator Nikhil Sawal started out as a member of our Philadelphia chapter back in 2016. In 2018, he ran for a hyperlocal office called committee person and used that as an opportunity to organize and build a strong base in his own community. The following year, he was propositioned to run for state senate. He was supported by Reclaim Philadelphia and a broad coalition on the ground. And in 2020, he was elected to the state senate. Last year, Senator Saval started co-drafting legislation with our members and other working people to address two of our biggest crises, housing and climate. Earlier this year, we had a week of action up and down Pennsylvania to introduce this legislation. And earlier this month, we won $125 million to keep people in our homes, to make our homes safer, and to bring down our utility bills. We did this all in a Republican-controlled legislature, and this is really Pennsylvania's movement politics love story for the country and what's possible when we elect our own people to office. And fortunately, you don't have to just hear it from me because it looks like Nikhil is able to join us now. Welcome, Nikhil.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you for having me.
We're so happy that you're here. And Nikhil, you've just scored a huge win for working people in Pennsylvania with the whole Home Repairs Fund, which, like I mentioned, is going to give $125 million in funding for home repairs all across the state. And you did that with strong bipartisan support. Can you tell us a bit about how you did that?
Thank you, Carrie. Well, one thing that I have to say is the way that we did it is we organized, and we organized together, and we organized with Pennsylvania Stands Up and a very broad coalition of community members across the state. Whole Home Repairs is a way to help people stay in their homes. It offers support for basic repairs, for energy efficiency, for people with disabilities. It helps you access existing programs, and it funds workforce development. It is something that thousands and thousands of people need across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania Stands Up with its chapters in Reading, in Allentown, our chapter here in Philadelphia, Reclaim Philadelphia, in Lancaster, Lancaster Stands Up, had members who testified to the importance of this bill and did so at rallies. They did so in the offices of Pennsylvania senators and legislators more generally. They sent letters to they constantly called the governor's office. It was a bill that was drafted with those members in mind. They testified at various policy hearings, and it was and every step of the way, we were accountable to those members. We were accountable to every decision that we made. We checked with ourselves, and we had a direct line. We had a coalitional meeting once a week. Is this right for the movement? Does this make sense? We co-governed. And I think that was a key way that we were able to get massive media attention for the bill, massive support across the aisle. And just a major amount of buy-in. We also did polling with Pennsylvania Stand Action with the firm Data for Progress, which showed that 1 in 4 Pennsylvanians needed a critical repair, and nearly half of Pennsylvania voters, if they were faced with a crisis, would be unable to afford those repairs, and that 76% of Pennsylvania voters wanted whole home repairs. They wanted this act. So we demonstrated the broad popularity of this at every possible level, to the point that it just felt like something, an idea whose time had come. And that would not have been possible without the system of co-governance and the deep organizing that we all did together with Pennsylvania Stands Up. So, we're just incredibly proud, and we feel like, the traditions that we came out of, yourself and myself, the organizing traditions really were key, critical to getting this legislation passed and funded.
Yeah, it was a thrilling win for us here in Pennsylvania. And Nikhil, you started out as an organizer. Now that you're in office, and you spoke a bit to this, how does it feel for you as a movement elected official to know that there are still organizers just like you and just like me that are really building support for the kinds of policies that you're working for to make a difference in people's lives? How does that affect how you're governing?
What I think it means for us is, one, just having a victory that was achieved through that level of organizing, through that theory of change being put into practice, at a statewide level. It shows that, frankly, a lot more might be possible than we sometimes allow ourselves to think. We might be scared. You mentioned all the things that we are facing in Pennsylvania, a tide of white nationalism, embodied in actual, candidates, just a certain level of reaction against people of color, about our LGBTQ community. We have all that happening in Pennsylvania. And so we can allow ourselves to fall into our fears and feel that we're up against a tide that we can't overcome. But I think that, the only way to do that, to combat that tide, is to organize. We know that it works. We know that we can do so at a scale that actually delivers victories, even in a Republican dominated legislature, even in a context that we feel is hostile to our ideas. And this was not an idea that we compromised on or that we tried to scale back. We wanted to win everything. We wanted to make a piece of legislation that made sense for the state, that made sense for all the members who would fight for it. And that is what we came up with and what we were able to secure. So we should pursue more. We know there's more we can do. We can build on this. We can build on this in our communities. And the fact that we can win here means that we can win in many different places on many different levels. So I hope that we continue to build, and that this is frankly the only way that we're going to be able to defeat the tide of reaction and nationalism that we are facing in Pennsylvania. I know that we will defeat it. I know that we will win, and I know that we can do it together. So I'm so excited. So I'm just grateful to be part of this movement and grateful to be fighting with all of you. And let's bring more people in. Let's bring more organizers up. Let's build more leadership. Let's get it done in Pennsylvania, and let's make ourselves a model for everywhere.
That is absolutely right. Wow. Thank you, Nikhil, and thank you, Carrie. We're so grateful for the work that you do, which shares so much with Pennsylvania Stands Up. And really all of our member groups, just like you. People's Action came together 7 years ago out of 3 organizations, national networks, that merged to build power and a bigger scale, just like you said, so that we can win for all of us. We're grounded in a long-term vision of change for this country, to win for local communities on the things that impact all of us every day, but also on the big structural changes we need in this country, like ending racism and winning on affordable housing and healthcare and much more. That's why we are now launching or starting what we call an organizing revival. Like you said, in a time that feels dark and a country that often feels divided, an organizing revival reminds us that we as human beings are bigger than a political party, where our collective needs can be met by us working together. So an organizing revival for us is about bringing what I call bringing the spirit back to a sometimes dispirited people, dispirited movement. It's about putting our hope and faith in everyday people in our communities. What community organizing did for me, and that's what we at People's Action are about. We know that we are more aligned with one another than the 5 p.m. news would want us to believe. So the organizing revival is really about building a strong we, about returning back to the basics of building community and grassroots power. It is centered around rigor, curiosity, an excitement about connecting to another human being. We're curious about conversations with each other. It's an intentional plan to grow organizers, to grow our base, and people who believe like us.
Yes, Sulma. Us here in Pennsylvania, we definitely want to be a part of the organizing revival with you. I do want to introduce one of our powerful leaders, Carol Clark, who has a question for you. Welcome, Carol.
Thanks, Carrie, and hi, Sulma. I'm from Maryland, and I'm a national movement politics leader for People's Action, the team that won back the White House. Our volunteers from across the country held nearly 300,000 phone conversations in 2020. We did exactly what we set out to do. We changed hearts, minds, and votes in states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan to win the presidential election. And I'm really, really proud of all the work that we did. We brought our country back from the brink. I know that what we did literally saved lives. I was deeply involved in the pandemic response from the beginning. And the second President Biden took office, he changed the US response in a meaningful way that made a difference for everyday Americans. But in so many other ways right now, it feels like we're moving backwards, not forwards. There's no Build Back Better. There's no Voting Rights Act. Roe was overturned. How can we hope? How can we have hope when we suffer body blow after body blow?
Carol, I want to thank you. That's a great question. And I want to thank you for all of your work. And it's because of volunteers like you that I do this work, and that inspires me every day. Thank you for everything you do. And it's because of leaders like you that I know we can win. I agree. And I want to be totally honest here, right? Sometimes it's hard to, and it's hard not to feel that discouragement. And so I want to put things into a little bit of perspective in the way I think about things. First, I remember in the ways that we did win, right? The ways that we are winning. Like you said, we defeated the most dangerous president in American history. We won the House, we won the White House, we won the House of Representatives, and we won the Senate. We also helped to win $1.9 trillion in aid to American families that are taking advantage of it right now, today, through the American Rescue Plan. And yes, this is not enough. Like you said, it's absolutely not enough. But poll after poll continue to show us that the values and policies we support, like affordable healthcare and affordable housing, and jobs for all, and a clean and sustainable economy, are more popular than we think with the people that we're talking to. So we know that more is possible. But I also want to be real with you. I'm a mother of 3 beautiful daughters who are growing adult with their families now. I have a grandson, and it is also hard. And it's just being real with you. We don't have all the power that we need to win. So my mission in this country and in my lifetime in this moment is to build a bigger we, to find more people who understand that we can break through the division and through the hate in order to build what we all need. And for that, we need to change more hearts. We need to change more minds. We need more votes. And we need to elect more champions that are with us during the moments of crisis, more champions that understand what this is about, that it's about collective power of people, about everyday people, just like you and me, and just like they're doing in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Sulma, I definitely agree. And I think that's exactly why we need movement politics. Here's a short video that explains what this is all about.
At People's Action, we have a vision of a country where we take care of each other, where everyone of every race and background has what they need to thrive. A country where we decide our leaders and our voice counts. But it's no secret that our greedy corporate opponents and their political allies do not share our vision. Because of their politics of division and corruption, along with weak leadership from national Democrats, working class voters are losing faith. With white nationalism on the march and state legislatures falling into the hands of the right, the movement we beat back in 2020 is on the verge of taking control of our country. Everything and everyone we love are in danger. So what will we do about it? People's Action has a plan. We have a proven, highly effective strategy to persuade voters who are on the fence in battleground districts: deep canvassing. Deep canvassing uses curious, compassionate conversations to move people along the political spectrum, and it's more than 100 times more effective than traditional persuasion efforts. With it, we have proven we can change hearts and minds through radical empathy. We can use deep canvassing to take seats away from corporate politicians who use racism to divide us. In their place, we'll elect progressives who will govern alongside us and who we can hold accountable. And we'll develop a pipeline of new leaders so that the progressives we elect today have more and better allies in office tomorrow. We're going big, with a slate of people's candidates to take on the white nationalists and the corporate lapdogs, so that even in tough times, we're setting the stage for a turnaround. But we can't do it without you.
Now let's welcome Priscilla Rose Bort. She's the Movement Politics Director at our sister organization, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. Welcome, Priscilla.
Thank you, Carrie. And hello, everyone. My name is Priscilla Rose. I use she, her pronouns. I am so excited to be here tonight to build a bigger we with all of you. 2020 was a big year for us here in Wisconsin, too. We fought hard, and with the help of a lot of people action volunteers like Carol, thank you all, we won back the White House. But this year, 2022, might be even bigger for us here because of a great guy and Citizen Action of Wisconsin, former board member, founding member of our organizing cooperative, Mandela Barnes, who is running for United States Senate. And guess what? We're going to hear from Mandela in just a few minutes. But before we do, I want to share a little bit of my story and how I got here. I grew up in a very religious Republican family. After high school, my mindset started to shift. 2016 was, of course, a big wake-up call for me. Yet, I was able to understand why some voters chose Trump over Hillary. But my biggest get-off-the-couch moment was actually the Parkland shooting in 2018. I was at home with my mom, a survivor of a workplace shooting. When that news broke, something in me changed. I simply did not understand how my mom could have gone through what she went through some 20 years before and still see this happen again. And since then, we know it's only gotten worse. So I researched. I found rallies and protests and organizations where I could volunteer. And with that, I found a community. So on a hot July day, 4 years ago, I went to a rally against family separation, and I met a guy running for lieutenant governor. That guy happened to be Mandela Barnes. I was only going to say hello, but for some reason deep within, I also asked if he needed any volunteers. This was one of the best decisions I ever made. Mandela is now not only my lieutenant governor, but my friend. And from there, things just really took off. I went from a volunteer to an organizer, and now I'm the Movement Politics Director at Citizen Action of Wisconsin. I always thought people in politics were big people with these big stories and degrees and money and big connections. But I'm here to tell you, if you're thinking of getting involved, you're on this call right now, you are already the extraordinary person this movement needs. See, people like to say that they don't want to get involved because politics has nothing to do with their daily lives, but we know that's not true. Politicians make decisions every day that affect our lives. This is why we need more folks who are in the community running for office, people who look like us, from the working class, who aren't billionaires, who are ready to build and co-govern with us. And that's what movement politics, building a bigger we, means to me. It's organizations like Citizen Action and folks like Mandela, the son of union workers, who I just want to add probably the two most excited and proud parents in the entire world, who grew up in a heavily incarcerated zip code, who started out as an organizer. We need more Mandelas in this world, and I guarantee some of you are right here on this call tonight. So when I think about building the bigger we, I think about my own journey, how proud I am to be here, and how I am more than ready to find more folks like me just out there looking for a community. So if you're ready to build with me, build with Citizen Action of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania Stands Up, People's Action, wherever you are watching this, I'm here to say welcome. Your family, your home, and movement politics is for you.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. I'm so excited to be with you and with Citizen Action of Wisconsin in this fight. I also can't wait to hear from Mandela, but first we've got another awesome guest, Brittany Ramos de Barros, community voice heard and community activist and leader who's running for Congress in New York. To ask her a question, here's Fentola Agbula from our Justices Global Project. Welcome, Fentola.
Hi, Carrie, and hi, everyone. My name's Fentola Agbula, she, her pronouns, and I am an organizer with Global Justice Action, where we believe the lives of working families here are linked with the lives of people everywhere. More than ever, I want to fight back against the racist narratives that told me that I didn't matter throughout my life, that I see in Congress and across our society. For example, during one of my lectures in college, my professor referred to Thomas Jefferson as a product of his time when retelling on his non-consensual relationship with his slave, Sally Hemings. I looked around in this small lecture room along with most of the other students of color, whilst the rest of the class continued to take notes. I was outraged by his treatment of students, his treatment of a Black female victim. Unfortunately, this dominant racist narrative about people of color also translates to how our elected officials, business leaders, and institutions treat the world. They use nationalist language to blame foreigners, immigrants, and other countries like China. We need leaders here in the US who understand they can help bring the world together in a shared struggle where everyone wins. This means supporting policies that promote international cooperation to end pandemics and address climate change everywhere. It also means opposing foreign policy that seeks conflicts which enrich the wealth and does little to keep us safe. Brittany, when you get to Congress, will you support this agenda?
Thank you so much for sharing your story and for that important question. I absolutely will. It's one of the reasons I'm running. I never thought that I would run for office. I'm a regular working class person. I'm an organizer, and I was organizing with an organization that I'm a member of called About Face Veterans Against the War, advocating against war profiteering and against the horrifying violence that the US military is carrying out that most people don't even realize is happening every single day. And I started speaking out against those wars when I was still a captain in the Army, just sharing basic truths about our shared fate. Things like the fact that the DoD at that time was burning 10.3 million gallons of oil per day. And the reality that we can't talk about climate crisis or poverty or healthcare without talking about our interconnectedness. And that's just one example, right, of our own US military being one of the largest polluters, the largest single entity polluter on the face of the planet. And yet so often we have politicians speaking out of both sides of their mouths, right? Saying that they want to pass a Green New Deal or that we want to address climate crisis, and yet endorsing people who don't support that agenda, or passing a military budget that continues to allow half of that budget to go to war profiteers that continue to fuel endless war. And so it's important that when we talk about the movement that we're building, that we recognize that the enemies that we face, right, those corporate entities that don't care about anything but their bottom line, right, and will do anything, including bribe Congress to make sure that the agenda that Congress advances is for them and not for everyday people like us, that those corporations are multinational. They are organized across country lines, right? They don't see these invisible lines that states have drawn at our borders and stop there. They work across the lines of our countries. And if we want to beat them, we have to work in solidarity with international communities. And that is not only limited to Republicans, it's Democrats too, right? We see that nationalist rhetoric that you're speaking to across the aisle. And in fact, the Blue Dog Democrat establishment back that's running against me ran blaming the overdose crisis happening here in Staten Island and South Brooklyn on China. And he celebrated his collaboration with Trump in blaming the crises that we face on China in a moment where we were seeing escalated anti-Asian hate crimes and just general rhetoric against our Asian comrades, right, and neighbors. And so that is just one example of the fact that this is not limited to one party. In my book, what we're building here is not about left versus right or top versus, it's about right versus wrong. It's about top versus bottom. It's about the 1% versus the rest of us. And that doesn't stop at our borders. That is justice that we have to be fighting for every day. Black, brown, indigenous, poor, working class people like us all around the world who are impacted by the policies that this government passes. And that's why I'm running, to be able to speak to that as a person who has worked inside that system and been a part of that unjust violence, unfortunately, in the past.
Thank you, Ventola. Wow. Thank you, Brittany. Now, please join me to welcome another true champion, Representative Ro Khanna from California is joining us. Welcome, Representative Khanna. I know that you are really squeezing us in your schedule, so we thank you. But tell me, what do you think about what you just heard? How can we create the kind of change we need in our country, in our world, and in our government? And again, thank you for joining us.
Well, Soma, thank you. I'm so honored to be part of this. I want to just recognize you and Adam and Tim and Susmik, who invited me, did such an amazing job for Bernie Sanders when I was a co-chair of the campaign in New Hampshire. And I'm inspired that we have a woman of color leading. I mean, you're a brilliant organizer, but I'm inspired that we have a woman of color leading a grassroots national organization. And no one did more than People's Action around the country for Bernie Sanders' campaign. And I am inspired by the stories. I've been on since 8 o'clock, which I've enjoyed because I've gotten to hear wonderful stories. I enjoyed the previous comments about standing up to anti-Asian hate, to making sure that we don't have a repeat of a Cold War with China. I appreciate the comments of people, Nikhil in Philadelphia, I know well, and his work on housing. There's a delegation actually for People's Action, 13 people, tenant delegation in Washington right now, fighting against the corporatization of housing. I mean, it's ridiculous. Wall Street buying up housing, jacking up the rents, making sure that we actually have some rent control that doesn't have rents going up way higher than inflation. And they're making a difference. Those 13 folks, they are knocking on doors. They are making a difference. I'll tell you one other quick anecdote. I had 2 staff people I'm proud of from my office who were arrested in Senator Schumer's office yesterday on climate action. And they asked me today, the press asked me, they said, did they have your pre-clearance? I said, no, they didn't have my pre-clearance. They're human beings. They're citizens. They're free people. They can do what they want. But I'll tell you what, I'm proud of them. The young folks are putting their careers. They didn't know how I would react or people would react. They're putting their careers on the line for climate. And today I called for a climate emergency with several of my colleagues. And just to say, well, it doesn't matter. We heard today that actually Senator Schumer came to a deal with Senator Manchin where he's agreeing to $370 billion of climate investment. Now we have to look at it. It's not what all of us would want, but it's better than zero. And I think the only reason that has happened, is all of you and the activism and the young people and the fact that people were even willing to get arrested for this.
That's absolutely right. And we are so proud of our team that was in DC this week as well. Representative Khanna, as you know, housing insecurity is one issue that many, many people face, as you mentioned. That's why we had, and we're so proud of our delegation that was there from all across the country. They this week met with the HUD secretary, including Secretary Marcia Fudge, the CFPP, and the White House. Can you say a little bit about how can government address the real pain and challenges that many people are feeling right now?
So let's start out with some basic facts. The wealth of the middle class and working class in America since 25% decline of wealth of the working and middle class since 1980. A lot of the jobs have gone offshore. There have been deindustrialization. Profits are coming. My district, Silicon Valley, $10 trillion of wealth in my district. And yet the working class isn't getting fair wages. The middle class isn't getting fair wages. The top 10% in this country own 72% of the wealth. The bottom 50% income earners own 2% of the wealth. This is not a sustainable democracy. And so young people and people in middle age look at this and they say, we can't afford the American dream. We can't do the basics. We can't afford a house. And owning a house was actually the biggest path of wealth generation. We can't get health care, medical debt. I mean, I've been for canceling medical debt, but 300 billion of medical debt in this country. We can't send our kids to get an education, either vocational education or college, because they're getting into debt. We can't go to the dentist because of the costs. And there's something wrong at a time where we're making more wealth than ever before. If you don't believe me, come to my district. I'll show you that. And we can't have people at Starbucks making a fair wage. We can't have people at fast food restaurants in my district, at Jack in the Box, making a fair wage where they can have dignity. They're not asking for much. They're just saying, pay us fairly for the work we're doing. So how do we change this? The way we change this is not going to happen just in Washington. I'll tell you that. It's going to happen with all of you fighting, demanding, saying you can't have Wall Street buying up corporate housing and jacking up the rent 30, 40%, as is going on in some of the places in my district, and just be okay with it. Freddie Mac today and Fannie Mae are subsidizing Wall Street to buy up homes, buy up residential property, and then they jack up the rents. We need to stop that. You can't have rent increases that are higher than the rate of inflation. What are people supposed to do? That is what your delegation is fighting for. And their voices are being heard. It makes a difference. Trust me, it makes a difference, you know, and it makes a difference what everyone on this call is doing on housing, on livable wage, on climate. And I'm frustrated too. Look, I'm frustrated we haven't gotten a $15 wage. I'm frustrated we haven't gotten the student debt loan forgiveness. I'm frustrated we haven't gotten any Medicare expansion with dental, vision, and hearing. You know, all these are such popular policies. But I'll tell you something, we're a lot closer today than we were prior to 2016, prior to Bernie Sanders' 2 runs, prior to what all of you have done. We're building, and 20 years from, you know, for 20 years, we can have a progressive movement if we keep building what you're doing. So, you know, please, please continue. And Nelson Mandela used to say, it always seems impossible until it's done. And sometimes I think people don't realize how close we are because of your advocacy to actually getting progressive policy.
Thank you so much, Representative Khan. I think you're absolutely right. And I do believe you because I hear it every day in our communities as well. And I have family members who experience it. So you're absolutely right. It's hard out here. And we really appreciate having, you know, champions like you in Congress, and totally understand, you know, that we're all dealing with that. So again, thank you. This is also inspiring everyone that we've heard from tonight. Thank you for making the time to join us tonight. And thank you for everything you do. I think we're...
Well, thank you so much. You inspire me. Everyone here inspires me. So thank you. I'm lucky to be joining. Thank you very much for having me.
And that's exactly what we hope to do, because we all need a little bit of that in these times. Carrie, you want to take us to what's next? Where we have a, we're going to hear from Representative Bartz in a couple of minutes, but I think first we're going to go to a very special video.
Yeah, first, let's actually hear from Colorado People's Action member Michael Neal about what you can do right now to make a difference in November. Michael, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Carrie. So my name is Michael Neal. He, him pronouns. I come from a state that is completely, wait, I think we've got a bit of a technical glitch here. Okay, thank you.
I think you're good. I think you're good, Michael. Okay. Go ahead, keep going.
So as I was saying, I come from a state that is quite literally burning. It's a, you know, it's been O'Neill. I'm a member of both Colorado People's Action and a national movement politics leader. I come to you today from a state that is overheating and drying up. It is fighting hard to maintain its status as a bastion of bodily freedom and reproductive rights. It is also a state that is not keeping up with demand for healthcare. It does not pay its workers what they deserve. No state does. So as we have said, we can only do this together. The time to act is now. I've deep canvassed with People's Action for over 2 years, first in my home state of Colorado and then all across the country. And I've learned that only difficult conversations and important conversations are the way to heal our divides, build a bigger we, and move into areas that we don't typically win in. We have a chance to really radically shift our political landscape for the better, but we can only do that together. We need all of you to volunteer on the doors, on the phones, as Texas canvassers. Why? Because you deeply understand the compassion we need and how to listen and how to meet people where they are. Only open minds and open hearts can bring people together, and we need you. So right now, please visit the link that is on your screen to find out about volunteer opportunities with People's Action that you can join right now. And share that link, please, because we'll post more and more opportunities to support progressive champions as they become available. And again, I thank you for the small glitches and dealing with those, and also for joining us.
Michael, it is leaders like you who inspire me, and like Carol, you know, you not only volunteer and one of our national volunteers on the state canvas, but you also then contribute to one of our member organizations in Colorado. So thank you so much. You inspire me to keep doing this work, and that is why we're building a bigger we with people like you. So thank you very much. Now back to you, Carrie.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here with you, Michael. Thank you for that. And thank you, Sulma. I'm sure that we can all agree that, especially after hearing from Congressman Khanna and Brittany, that we need more champions who are ready to stand up for us in Washington, right? And there is something that you can do right now to make that happen. But first, one of our dear friends and one of actually Mandela's biggest fans, he couldn't be here in person, so he sent us a special message. So please, let's welcome Senator Bernie Sanders.
As the son of a public school teacher and a UAW assembly line worker, Mandela Barnes knows the struggles of working families. His agenda advances the interests of ordinary Americans, not the billionaire class and wealthy campaign contributors. I'm proud to endorse Mandela because he is the best positioned progressive to win both the primary and defeat Ron Johnson in November. We need Mandela in the Senate, and we need a strong grassroots movement to make sure that he wins. Please sign up to volunteer and make sure you vote on August 9th. Thanks.
So inspiring. I'm going to throw it back over to Sulma.
Thank you, Carrie. That is inspiring. What a great night. So let's get ready to welcome another one of our champions, Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor and Citizen Action of Wisconsin member, Mandela Barnes. Welcome, Mandela.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I just want to say thank you all so much for all the hard work y'all been doing day in and day out. We are in the thick of the campaign, 13 days out from the primary. Then it'll be another 90 days into the general. I'm incredibly excited because we have had such the first day, Monday, I should say, one of the top 4 candidates in this very crowded field of Democrats decided to suspend his campaign and endorse me. And just this morning, the person who was polling in second place decided to suspend his campaign and endorse me. People from every corner of the state of Wisconsin are coming together to support our effort to beat Ron Johnson this November. And that's because my story is different than most. I don't come from a wealthy or well-connected family. I come from a hard-working union household. And just like so many of you, community organizing is what did it for me. That's how I got my start. And it's what made all the difference in this race. People organizing in communities all across Wisconsin, the communities that have been left behind for far too long. And this isn't just about Republicans versus Democrats. It's also not about Black or white. It's not about the false notion of an urban-rural divide. It's about those who are at the very top and the rest of us who've been left at the bottom. And that's exactly why I do the work that I do. It's why our message is connecting with voters in every corner of the state of Wisconsin and all over the country as well. People know that I am the candidate in this race who can take on Ron Johnson and the candidate who will beat Ron Johnson. And we all know that the stakes can be higher, with reproductive freedom on the line, with the rights of workers to organize threatened daily, with the climate in crisis and our democracy threatened. It's time for us to step up. It's time for us to organize, and it's time for us to deliver a resounding victory in November. And now look, this is not going to be easy. We know what they're going to throw at us, but the hard part, that's not what scares me, because I know the work will be that much easier when we do it together. Now, I'm running for Senate because I believe better is possible. I believe that we can create a future where hard work pays off, where everybody can get a fair shot at the American dream. And I know that you all believe it too. That's why you showed up today. And that's why I'm here today, to advocate. And that's why Scott Walker is no longer the governor of the state of Wisconsin. And that's how I know that we can get rid of Ron Johnson this November, but it can only happen with your help. So just want to say thank you all so much for having me this evening.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad that you're optimistic, because I think that's why I'm here too. We are a group of optimistic people who believe that it's about organizing, it's about building a bigger we, it's about connecting to people, and about working with champions who will be with us in our communities in the moments that matter, the moments of crisis. I want to make a call to people who are watching us again. There is a link on your screen. This is how you can help us build a bigger we and connect and change the conditions that we're living through today. So I want to thank everyone tonight. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you to the incredible people who are thinking about how we can radically change and shift the conditions that we're in. So again, thank you. You heard it from me. You've heard it from Carrie. You heard it from Michael, from Carol, from Priscilla, from Faitola, from all our community champions, that movement politics, a different kind of politics that continues to have a faith and hope in people. We need you today. People's Action needs you. So please visit the link again. It's on your screen. Join us. It's on your screen, and there's also a way that you can join via text message. It's 51767 with the word WIN. We need you. We need you to join this organizing revival with us. We hope to see you again. Now to take us out, let's welcome back our musical champion and get a little bit of refresher with our art and reminder of hope and joy and love and resilience. We're going to go back to our musical champion, Reginald Chapman, for another amazing song. Thank you. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Buenas noches. Let's take it away, Reginald.
Thank you to everyone for joining this event. Let's continue to bring more people into the movement. Build a bigger we to build a better place.
you.